Now, conversations around maladministration in the city of Johannesburg and its companies have resurfaced. City officials appear to deflect responsibility, blaming NGOs for hampering the city's efforts in dealing with illegal occupation of derelict and abandoned buildings. The South African Municipal Workers Union has accused the city of housing corruption and fraud. We speak now to Karabo Ramahuma, who is Samwu's Gauteng treasurer. He joins us in studio. Karabo, thank you for making time for us. As Samwu, you have been raising issues around corruption in the Johannesburg social housing company for a while now. There's a housing backlog, if I'm not mistaken, of around 500,000, according to reports. How much of this crisis is as a result of the corruption that you've been flagging?
Look, maybe let me say good afternoon to Newzroom listeners. We've always maintained as South African Municipal Workers Union that the biggest enemy of progress and development has always been corruption. I'm sure you recall we had spoken, I want to believe, with your colleagues, if not yourself, at various times in the past months, about the number of corrupt activities that we have flagged with the city and how they then impact first our condition of service as workers, but then service delivery and eventually development. And housing and social housing, Joshko, and housing in its entirety were such. So subsequent to that, it dragged, I must say, it dragged a bit, but we kept on pushing because we had always vowed that we will fight corruption. And we subsequently met the political leadership of Housing Institute of Johannesburg. We then had an opportunity to escalate, and we know now, as a matter of fact, that the dossier that we have given them, they are looking at it. So it's a matter that we would say begrudgingly, because it's not moving at the pace that we wanted, at least it's being attended to internally. Although the outcomes are not there, you see, that's why I'm then become even a bit wary to speak about the nitty-gritty things. But it's something that we initiated and things started moving. At the point when we started making noise, there was no movement. There would be a finding and there would be nothing, consequence management. There would be a recommendation, nothing would be implemented towards those recommendations. But to date, it's not satisfactory. We've seen movement, albeit at a slow pace.
But from what you've been exposed to, the information you've been exposed to, how bad is it? Because ultimately, we are seeing a delay in the delivery of temporary and social housing projects. And clearly, even when you look at tragedies like what we've seen this week, part of the problem is that corruption you're speaking of.
Yeah, look, while as Samwu, we also equally send condolences to families of the bereaved in the Marshalltown mayhem. It's corruption that it's partly, that is a City of Johannesburg building. But then it gets hijacked. But you see, we must be honest. While we are too critical of the city as our employer, we must be honest and look at these issues holistically. I'm saying, for instance, if you look at where there's a disaster, you then get something that says majority of those who could suffer fatalities are in fact in the country illegally undocumented. That does not justify that it's fine. What happened can happen.
Yeah, and we don't know that yet.
We don't know that yet. But look, there's a strong sense. Myself and other comrades, we've been into the area, and it actually has got a grain of truth. So, but I'm saying, you then also look at a scope of a municipality and you ask yourself, we have embassies, we are yet to hear embassies flogging there. And in South Africa we have this I'll call it a counter-revolutionary posture of people masquerading as NGOs. They are not there today. They are not there to help government. But when, for instance, City of Joburg says we are enforcing the bylaws, we want to evict all these people, we want to stop trading there, the NGOs are the first ones that goes to court, and we find our constitutional court also playing into the gallery. We are not the
Are the NGOs wrong to do that?
They are wrong.
What is wrong about what they do?
And let me tell you what is wrong. You can't misuse the law to protect lawlessness. Here is Karabo. He left his country of origin, be it in London or in Pakistan. Because we do have illegal immigrants who are also of European descent, and it would seem as if when we speak about them, we speak about a certain kind. Here is Karabo, who lives wherever he left, comes to South Africa, hijacks a building, put tenants there, does not adhere to safety. But when an arm of state, like a municipality, as it happened in Johannesburg before 2016, remember this thing, it's a cycle that happened. The previous administration, I think it was under Parks then, sought to evict these people. These NGOs were the ones who actually ran to the Constitutional Court. And the Constitutional Court seems to agree with them. Now, we must also do a self-introspect.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to understand is what was wrong with that. So here's my understanding.
Yes.
So the Constitution says if you are going to be evicting someone, and I've spoken to Salga, because Salga says let's rather change the law. The Constitution says if you want to come and evict Karabo, you have to arrange alternative accommodation for them. That's not what the NGOs are saying. What the NGOs are saying is if a city of government, a city or any entity of government comes and wants to evict Clement or Tsepo or Karabo, they have to adhere to the law. And the law says if you're going to be evicting people, you have to arrange alternative accommodation for them. So I'm just saying let's be careful not to say it's the NGOs that are saying do not evict. The NGOs are saying you can do it if you want, but just make sure that you follow the letter of the law. And if the city feels that the law frustrates them in evicting them and dealing with the issue, they can go and change the legislation.
Look, you are correct, but this is what we are saying. You see, we must not be counter progress and dwell on technicalities in terms of what the law says. Our argument is for one to actually, and this is how the law should be, that for one to enjoy protection of laws of a particular country, he must first abide by those laws. Now you have a person who entered the border illegally, not paying tax, doing business activities in your space, go to a central business district, hijacks a building that eats up on the city in terms of revenue. But by the way, those buildings, they somehow, you find them, they have water, they have electricity, but they are not paying. Now, let's be honest. The law says that.
Yeah.
Is that law saving the people?
But whose responsibility is that? So the same government that now wants to accuse the NGOs, they've allowed. We've got porous borders. Home Affairs is a mess. They've allowed these people to jump through the borders, get here illegally, register businesses illegally, occupy buildings, not pay for electricity and water. Whose responsibility is that?
It's a collective responsibility, and I'll tell you why I say it's a collective responsibility. Making laws, changing laws in South Africa has got to follow a particular process. You would recall, South Africa, there's been an outcry to say, but for instance, just as an example, there's an imbalance in terms of ownership of land and wealth. 15% is owning 85%. Let's amend Section 25 to correct that.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm saying all laws must follow that process.
Yeah.
While we understand that the law as it currently stands says that. Because remember also, these NGOs, why I say they have a part to play. The incident that I'm referring to before 2016, the one that was led by the then Mayor Pakstow, he was not actually necessarily victim. He was enforcing bylaws in the city's pavements. Who's trading there? How? You know. So I'm saying, while the law permits that, remember, Clement, the right to do something does not mean that thing is right. We must also try to be morally in line with what, as a society, we seek to achieve. We can, on one hand, saying the government is not delivering, and I don't want to come here become an apologist of government, but we must look at the facts as they present.
Well, I have to be honest, that appears to be what you are doing.
No, I'm saying let's
because even the NGOs themselves, the suggestion must never be that the NGOs must sit back and allow government to evict vulnerable people. That may include children, whether they are foreign nationals or not. They evict vulnerable people without following the right processes. If government wants to continue with the eviction, they must do that. But they must do that according to the law. And they are the sole principal adherers of the law. If they're unhappy about it, the ANC government is in charge. They must go to parliament, change the legislation.
Look, like I say, I'm not an apologist of government. Ne? But I'm glad you are vein there, even mentioning the governing party. You know, our view is this governing party, if for instance, in terms of attitude and deployment, it deployed 20 Dr. Aaron Motsohaledis, 20 Banyazali Tsufis, 20 Popi Ramachubis, the MMC of Health. I'm saying they've been raising those issues. You see rights, ne? Rights must not, we must not be trampled upon our rights because of vulnerable children, because we will be xenophobic. I'm a South African. I currently can access certain services because an undocumented person who's not paying tax is there.
Yeah.
There are, we can also invite.
Yeah, and we need to point fingers at government for failing to protect our borders. Karabo, I'm out of time, but thank you so much for coming through. That's Karabo Ramahuma, who is with Samwu.